Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roach Crossing Wiggle, Roach Wiggle, February 23rd, 2023. I'm going a little bit crazy over here, but it's okay. Let me give a quick welcome, a hi to everybody who's here already. We've got Tennyson, we've got Dreams, Tiny Critters, Jose, and Junior. Welcome, everybody who is here on this. And Braden, perfect. And Shane and Anthony. Well, the gang's almost all here. We just need Zen Monkey and Kai to intervene. And oh, hey, Alan. Hello, everybody. And Jojo. Wow, a lot of people piling in. Yeah, it's good to see everybody. Currently, we are thawing out. Oh boy, a quick question from Tennyson. Let me get this before I go rambling. How long is blabber species Honduras first gestation? Got some pretty thick females. I'm gonna have to think about that and extrapolate from other. The first for live-bearing roaches, usually their first litter takes substantially longer than subsequent litters. By maybe a couple weeks to months. They got to get all the reproductive gears got to get turning, and they got to get inseminated and whatnot. And so usually the first wait is the longest. Subsequent litters will be substantially faster. Typical blabberous gestation. Oh, I have this data somewhere. It's on like the Roach. It's on like the Roach forum for. I did semi-anecdotal keeping track of Blabberus discoidalis, Eublaberus posticus, and Blaptica dubia. And out of those, the one with the shortest gestation was Discoidalis. Posticus was close behind by maybe like a week or something. And dubia's actually had a very long gestation compared to the other two, from I remember. So I want to say 50 to 70 days you could expect. 50 to 70 days after adulthood, if not maybe a bit more than that, and then probably more in that range for subsequent litters. Could be faster, could be slower, etc. Bunkalomymus attending the Wiggle Live finally. Oh, hey, welcome. Yes, let's see, what was I going to try and go off about today here? We had some terrible weather last night. The ice storm. Everything is covered in a couple of like millimeters of ice. There have been tree branches falling left and right all around the block. People are losing power everywhere. It is actually a miracle that I still have power, because up until maybe 2-3 years ago, when they did some rewiring down the block or something, if the wind blew slightly too hard, we would lose power here, and that's not the case right now. So yeah, very fortunate. Some people, my girlfriend doesn't have power right now, I think. Neighbors at my parents' house had a tree fall in their backyard or something from the ice. Several intersections nearby don't have power. It's kind of crazy. I do not have generators. I am hoping, but for the grace of God, that I could weather any sort of storm that would happen. The extreme emergency plan would actually, I'm quite powerless, but a lot of things can take cold temperatures for short periods of time. So everything in the basement will be fine. The basement probably would never get below freezing on its own. It's just, there's too much air down there, and it's too far below ground, too much of a heat mass, and sunk into the ground below the frost line, all that stuff. This room would be at major risk of having problems. However, what I figure I could always do is me sitting here, the dog sitting here, have a couple friends and get in here, and you can keep a room above freezing pretty easily that way. So that's my backup plan for here. The future facility, however, will have a generator and potentially, as a double backup measure, a wood-firing stove. Should it come to that, may have that. So Anthony says Wisconsin got crushed by that too. Luckily, it's kind of better today. I thought it was going to go all day too. It would have been better if the temperature increased faster outside, but it hasn't. It was supposed to get up into the high 40s. I don't think it's there. I'll check my phone and see. It was okay when I went out with Victor earlier. It's only it's we didn't quite get to that 44-degree estimate that they had put on the books, but that would have caused everything to melt really fast and then drain and not have this problem. So I think a lot of people were anticipating it to be worse in terms of the driving. I actually didn't really do any driving today. But the real problem is all the infrastructure getting crushed by trees and weighed down with ice and all that. So, and yes, Shane, I don't, again, as I noted, I don't have a generator, but will eventually. Constant nightmares of powerless happy haven. Haven't had that in so many years. Again, very fortunately, a lot of things that I have, I don't keep anything so sensitive that a little bit of cold will kill it outright. Maybe the most sensitive thing that I have is probably like lubber grasshopper adults or nymphs, I would think. So, but yeah, the worst thing could, something bad could happen at any given point in time, and I just have to deal with it as it is. Again, I'm not too concerned. The future, when it's a whole building, if the generator wouldn't start or something like that, oh yeah, then it would be a problem. So, Alan, glad he doesn't live in the north, obviously. Hello, Exotic Wilderness. Tennyson says, we have about 3 feet of snow here. Had to help 2 cars get unstuck on my way to work, including my rides. Yeah, my uncle lives in Utah and sent my parents some pictures of all the snow that they've had to clear out of the way and stuff. And yeah, I'll hard pass on on that amount of snow. We really did not get too much snow this winter, which is fortunate. I did have to. There was one day where I had to fully shovel the driveway, maybe back in January, but not really much since then. And I'm imagining that from here on out, there won't be any more those big snows that won't just melt away pretty soon. My bug room is a converted shed, says Shane. I couldn't dream of not having backups without being a night terror. Yeah, yeah. If it was not part of the house, I'd be a little bit more concerned. The house is kept so warm and so consistently that if I go outside and I look at where like the snow falls and whatnot, and there's the whole planted area in front of the house and whatnot. The ground is kept warm several feet out from the foundation, and snow does not really stick there unless there's a bunch of snow. Then it sticks, but snow does not really stick there. And the little corner that's formed between the garage and the foundation of the house, also, it can be very cold out, and that will still be snow-free and ice-free and whatnot because of how much heat radiates outwards from the basement. Need to move somewhere like Bama or Arizona someday, says Tennyson. Need to cuddle with the bugs to keep warm, says Jose. Yeah, I mean, I figure with Victor, I could just bring him in here and we could just do some aerobics. You don't realize how much heat the human body can put off in a small space, and so that would be that's the the backup plan for here. Crazy weather in Michigan lately, yeah. Frozen rain, absolute caca. I'd prefer snow. Yeah, it's I mean, it looks nice. Everything outside. There we go. Everything outside looks pretty nice. Or look nice, rather. Now everything's melting. Everything's just starting to look kind of get into that part of spring where things are looking, winter, spring, where things are starting to look kind of goopy outside, where there hasn't really been stuff hasn't woken up and started grazing, and mycelium haven't really started creeping and all that stuff. So everything just looks kind of like rotted and a little bit gross from a distance with all the moisture. But any day now, I think 10 days from now, we're supposed to be in the 50s, so that'll be good. And even when you hear those temperatures, you're also getting, without all the trees, without the leaves being grown on the trees, the sun is hitting a lot of everything here directly. So even if it says it's going to be 54 degrees air temperature, at the ground or a little bit above the ground, it can still be a bit warmer, which is nice. Kyle, what do you do to your yard in the spring, since I'm assuming you're pretty much managing for maximum insect diversity? So I think I have it slated for next weekend or the following weekend. I go outside and I do some cleanup. I cut the dead stems from last year. You know, they say you're supposed to cut them only and leave like 6 to 8 inches or something like that. Yeah, if you had a smaller space, I guess, like a small personal garden, you could do that. You know, the idea being that solo nesting bees and stuff will nest inside the stems, which is true. But it's kind of a pain to do that with a lot of stuff and just to like leave it, and then you're like, oh, I'm trampling it over anyways when I'm walking around to do so. So I just kind of cut everything, clean it up that way. I drop everything on site and I kind of push it down so the wind doesn't blow it away. And depending on how moist it is, that can be really effective or not very effective. And this year might go out and do a raking of some stuff. So it's been quite a while now, almost like 4 or 5 years that I've had a lot of the stuff outside, like the main area that used to be lawn up until 2019. I think it's been 4 years. And can really tell how the soil has been improved. Usually by June, all of the leaf litter and stems and stuff that I cut down at this time of year have been shredded by the wind, by the elements, by bugs, by all manner of things. And so there's been a very nice layer of rich, fertile soil accumulating out there. But then I have to ask some questions of what do I want for this space aesthetically, and how do I want to manage it for whatever bugs I feel I kind of want to encourage. And so the big oldest bed that's directly outside this window has really good biodiversity. I don't find anything invasive popping up in there anymore for maybe like 2 years now. But one of the problems is it's kind of going in a direction I'm not a huge fan of. There's a lot of couple of varieties of goldenrod that are out there, and I love goldenrod, but nothing is managing the goldenrod. Nothing's like, no herbivores are knocking it back, or no pestilences are causing it issues. And so it's going a little rampant out there, and there's some things that I kind of miss seeing that I want to see again. So what I'll probably do is by April, May, when the goldenrod is a foot high, all the solidago in those beds, I will go out and I'll cut it and drop it. And it's gonna set it back a little bit. The main thing is it's gonna expose light and space for later in the growing season. And what I'm hoping for is that a lot of the very quick growing grasses that were more prominent in there will take that opportunity to germinate or expand their tiller outwards or whatever, or there's a billion different ways that all the grass in there reproduce, and that I will have a slightly more grassy looking area out there for just this year. And then, if the goldenrod comes back with a vengeance a couple of months or weeks later, just cut it again. And it's just one of those things where it's like, and who knows, in the wild there could be a fire or some grazing animal that comes through and eats all the goldenrod, or some sort of pestilence, or a billion different things. And I feel like it will be healthy for that ecosystem to suppress the goldenrod for this year. And also it depends on how long I'm going to be here as well. I'm gonna just answer and look at a couple of other comments here before I continue ranting. I want to be summer. This is not okay, says Leah. Didn't know if you put dead stems in compost or anything. Satchel says, yo, Kyle, what's up? I'm just thinking fondly about all the yard work I have to do. Did you mention that you have micro ram's horn snails? No, I didn't. You mean the weird little ones that are with the Lemna trisulca? Brain says goldenrods attract those cool cerambycids, but they sure are aggressive. Only you can be the limiting factor here. Yeah, again, I love goldenrod. I love seeing all the bugs that are on it in the fall. It is an amazing plant, but it's Canada goldenrod needs to be sort of taken down a peg every once in a while. Same with early goldenrod. I mean, it's been 5-6 years of some of those being present out there, and it'll be healthier for everything around them for that to just sort of happen. Give things a chance to sort of fill in that space, and I could sit out there all summer and cut it back, and it'll come back next year. So it doesn't really matter. Another thing that I think I'm going to do in the frontmost prairie is I am going to probably rake off all of the leaves and material. Again, I said I usually cut and drop it, but I think I will rake everything off this year because there's been a good accumulation of organic matter in the soil, which was, what I was hoping for. Not that I have any, whether or not there's that in the soil is neither here nor there, other than for agricultural plans. The plants don't care. Whatever's going to thrive there is going to thrive, regardless of whether it's got extra water retention, this or that. And so, but I wanted to do that because I've noticed that there are fewer annual plants out there, and that was one of the things I really liked about the bed was the abundance of very colorful annuals. So the Plains Coreopsis is kind of having a hard time now, other than on the edges where it has no competition and the soil is very exposed anyways because of the little ridge thing that I put there when I planted some Sporobolus grass. There was almost no snow on the mountain last year, which is fine because it was everywhere the year before, and then as other stuff came in, it's kind of disappeared. Gasticky funiculum, I'd like to see some more of. Rudbeckias, there are not really any Rudbeckias out there. Last year, there was still a lot of partridge pea. I feel like it almost doesn't qualify as an annual because it just grows so quickly, and it makes itself known abundantly too. But strawberries, Fragaria virginiana, really moved in from the middle area that I had planted like 2 years ago, really just swept across all of that. And it's a great plant. It's edible berries, blah, blah, blah. But again, there has to be some disturbance out there, I feel, this year. And doing a rake is how I think I can do that. I cannot do a extensive controlled burn here. I actually could, but I don't want to do that. That's not the direction I want to go with that stuff. So anyways, that's what I'm going to be doing in a week or two or something when there's a good weather day, is going out there, cutting everything, cleaning everything up. I have my ornamental beds along the walkway that I will be which I didn't do last year, but I should have. Remove all the stems and the leaves and all that stuff, and I'll just take it out to the compost, the Hugelmund in the backyard. And and that's what I'll do for the front yard. I got to get the vegetable bed going, fence it off, whatever makes the house look cuter for the eventual sale. And so there you go. There's my rant for 15 minutes or something. Exotic Wilderness asks, how is your shrimp fish tank doing? The one with the yellows has there are several that have eggs now, which is great. I actually can't see them in most of the other setups that I made because of how green the water is. And I'm okay with that, although it is a little annoying when you're trying to check like the population levels. So what I'll probably do is what I did with some of the other tanks that had a lot of green water that I wanted to see into was I'll take a handful of hydrocotyl out of a sterile tank or one that doesn't have anything in it really, in terms of like, I don't want to move snails around, blah, blah, blah. And I will take a lump of that and throw it into there, let it take some of the nutrients out of the water, may have some chemicals that it exudes that discourages other plant growth, allelopathy or algal growth, and let the water drop so that it amplifies that effect. And then once it feels like I've made some progress, I'll just pull it out and feed it to something or eat it or whatever. So they seem to be doing well from the ones that I could actually see. Super Taiba has as many shell whorls as an adult. Oh, I don't know. I just seem to recall you mentioned me, so I might bring it up because I just found one in one of my tanks. Yeah, I can't remember what that group of snails is called. I knew it at some point, but I can't remember. Those little flat ram's horn guys. Any pictures of those those little snails mentioned before? They hold their shell flat. It's not held straight up like a typical ram's horn. It's sort of to the side next to them, I guess. What is the nomenclature of the tiny ram? A lot of people interested in the snails. This is very interesting in these tiny snails. Again, I had looked it up at some point. They would have come in on the Lemna trisulca from U of M. Do you happen to remember how many Fragaria starts you planted? Says some eggs. 38. I think I had split them off of nearby. I had already had some strawberries out there, but I had split them off of, where did I get them from? My parents' house. I think I got them from my parents' house, which I had initially put there a long time ago. And then they really, really took off the year before, and not so much this year per se because of the dryness that we have. The drought really killed back a lot of strawberries. And the nice thing about Fragaria virginiana is that it's a tenacious plant, and it seems to do a lot of its growth in cool weather. So there'll be a surge of it moving around, unless it's a wet summer, then it'll grow constantly. But in the spring, it'll move around everywhere, and then you'll see less growth and less expansion during the summer. And then again, in the fall, it will keep going as long as it can. You will find Fragaria virginianas that we're trying to force out new growth when it's like December still. That plant really doesn't stop. So, it was a very small amount. It does not take much to get that species established, which is nice. Again, wonderful plant. Somebody says, I found some ceiling tile things in my park. I was going to lift them up to throw them away, but there were tons of park light under them, so I just left them. Satchel, I just showed up and hijacked your chat for snail discussion. Anthony Green, describe the damn snails. Welcome to Snail Crossing. I did gaff about the snails. Snails, these tiny snails are a very contentious topic right now. I'm going to look up flat snail, flat aquatic snail, because I know I knew this. Flat pebble snail. Oh, that's not it. But I do have, not that family, the freshwater limpets, the snails that evolved to be limpidy. I do have those going too. Also, they came from Mr. Satchel on some plants, as snails often do. And I'm really trying to find this though. Could this be it? This blog has been removed. Man, what's in with all this content and stuff just disappearing in the last couple of months? I guess years. a lot of this old internet information, all the old forum posts and this stuff. Man, now I can't find it. They're small, flat, freshwater snails, and they probably eat algae, I would think, from the way that they're behaving in the container I have them in. I need more feeders for leeches. Hilabdilla loves small snails. You might like. I'm not good with these snail genre because I just started keeping them. Is it Limnia? These Limnia that I have from these pond snails from Lake Erie, that Brandon and I found like a big breeding mass of them in 2020, I think. And I threw them into my old style aquarium that was in the kitchen, which was, low light, Java fern, Java moss. Like, oh yeah, this is the way to do aquarium keeping. Oh yeah, this is such a great setup. Oh yeah, look, I got like all this vegetation in here. And of course, I put Heterandria in there and they all died. I tried to raise some sort of Danio in there and they just sort of like existed for a bit and then they died. The coolie loaches I put in there were fine though, and then I moved them to a different setup. Anyway, so I threw these Limnia in there and was like, oh boy, snails, they'll take over the whole thing. And then they reproduced a little bit and then they all died. I was like, oh crap. So then the following year we went back and it was a drier year and we couldn't find any snails. The mud pit that they were in was dried up right on the shore of Lake Erie. And then this year we went back and couldn't find them at the mud pit, but we went down a new trail this year that we hadn't gone down before. Was Will, Brandon, and I, and we found a little boardwalk through a marshy area, and it was snail heaven. I found a bunch of those big trapdoors. I found was probably a native ram's horn. I found a bunch of those Limnia, and so I collected as much as I could, labeled everything, brought it back, and got them going. And so I have colonies of all those, or I guess they're called colonies. I have stock of all those. They're colonies. I have colonies of all of those now. I really do like the Limnia because of how pointy their shell is. But they really seem like they should be kind of easy pickings for a lot of other things. They don't have an operculum. Their shell, it's probably the water that I'm keeping them in, but it might also be their density. But they have really been doing a number on each other's their shells, or their shells just can't form as properly in the type of water I'm giving them. They're still breeding. They're still doing fine. But yeah, so they've got all the holes in their shells and all this other stuff. They're barely snails at this point, I guess, but they're doing fine other than that. So I would imagine that they'd be quite palatable to aquatic stuff that you want to feed them to. Alan asked, does yours berry often? Because my Virginia flowers in spring but never berries. Yes, I can go out there in May or June and probably pick a couple, maybe like 1,000 strawberries out of there. Maybe even more than that if I were to go around and turn every leaf. It's very abundant. Very abundant out there, but there's also the stock is also several different genotypes, so that might be why there's a higher fruit set, is because it's out crossing. And as some eggs is saying, is Fragaria virginiana self-fertile? I think it is, but it's probably going to have better fruit set with other stuff. And there's also this pollinator heaven out there, so there's also that. There's probably so many things working on pollinating them constantly. It's got very high exchange of pollen rate. Satchel says, search micro ram's horn snail. There's some results for that. I found one. I'm going to try to culture them. I threw in with the yellow boy, who is no longer yellow. Tennyson asked, what conditions do Dryma planita semivita like? So TJ had told me to keep them dry, and so during the summertime, I kept them relatively dry with like a moist corner. And then in the winter, my chyle senses started tingling, and I thought, they're probably not going to like this when the air is dry. So I put a polycarb over it, and I'm still keeping it rather dry. There's the back corner, I think, might have a touch of condensation, surprisingly now. but that's what's doing it for them. And I think that they might be kind of like they might like to have some wood in their diet. They're all the INAT pictures and reports of people finding them was like in old wood piles and stuff like that. And it could just be that they like that habitat, like Eurycotis, like similar and don't need wood. But it's also possible that they might need the fiber. They might like to eat it, and they might need it that way. So discussion of Ligia, Limnia, and Ligma. Hazy says, "Hi, Kyle. Hello, Hazy. Good to see you. I don't know if I've seen you here before. The avatar doesn't ring a bell per se, but welcome." Limnia haven't done well for me yet, but I can't run out of bladder snails, which I hate. I'm gonna pull a Kai here and say that with the Limnias, all I had to do was throw them in a tank and feed them dog food, and that's literally what I've done. They do have a sponge filter. They have that special. What's it called? I don't even know. It's like the really. I think it might be biochar or something is what it might actually be, but it's that product that people use for shrimp. Those little black pellets that are kind of lightweight. Like if you run your fingers through them, you can part them really easily. They're not heavy like traditional gravel is. But I was feeding them, again, just feeding them dog food, and still I'm feeding them dog food, and they've been reproducing fine. There's also, at some point, there was a big outbreak of snail leeches or nematodes. They might have been nematodes that were infesting them. And so I decided to throw my heterandria that I received from Satchel from Louisiana in there. And the heterandria have exploded in numbers, and I haven't seen any more of those nematodes. So they're, as I had figured, they're probably eating them, which is great for both the fish and the snails. Does anyone here keep banana slugs? Braden, I have kept them before. I kept them at temperatures that people said would kill them initially. I don't buy into the temperature hypothesis because some of the species, like the long dong banana slug, transliteration of Dolichophallus, the long dong banana slug is found in places that get quite warm during the summertime. What tends to happen, I've seen with a lot of gastropods, at least with all the slugs that I have kept, is they produce copious amounts of waste and possibly ammonia, and that builds up very quickly. So just imagine that, but now you have gigantic slugs that are pooping and exuding constantly, and so they need a very hardcore cleanup crew, and or you need a huge enclosure, and or you need to rotate them through enclosures to make sure that they don't cause an issue that's gonna, because although they may not be so temperature and whatnot sensitive, buildup of chemicals, any of that stuff is just gonna go right into them through their skin. So I would like to keep some long dongs again. Actually, I should probably get in touch with the person who collected the original set and see if they can find some more, because I would like to keep them. Exotic Wilderness asks, Kyle, what do you house your Blabberus giganteus in? They're in just a 10-gallon tank. The locality stock doesn't even have any vertical bark. It's got a lot of, I should probably change that actually. I'll go throw a cork bark or something in with them tonight. But my ancient colony of giganteus is also in a 10-gallon with mostly the same wood that they had from when I started the colony. Really good quality ash bark. Lots of multiple surfaces. They have a cleanup colony of Porcellio scaber of a line cross that I need to get off my butt and put up on the website and with them, and they do very well. I think that they might like higher air humidity, even if the enclosure is not very moist all around, because basically in the fall I started having some traditional die-offs with them, and before I could slip a polycarb lid on, and I vaguely remember this kind of being an issue last winter. Not so much because also Will was watering things daily a lot of the days. I can't do that right now. So yeah. Hazy says, I don't tune in often because of school. That's okay. I appreciate you tuning in you tune in tonight, and I will try to remember that. Is that a penguin? It kind of looks like a rockhopper penguin is your avatar. I don't think that's what it is, but that's what it kind of looks like. So Meg says, Kyle, are you going to do any more gardening streams this year? Yes, with an asterisk. It's all going to depend on how selling the house goes. If it's going well and it's a smooth process and I'm on top of everything, then I have hopefully we'll have plenty of extra time to go out and do things like that. You can always substitute it for the stream itself as I have done before and not have to do 2 streams in one day. So probably I love going out there and talking about things, but again, it could end up being a very tough summer and fall getting moved and getting everything set up and getting used to a new schedule and reining in my ambitions with all the space that I could have. So Long Dong Banana Slug is my new screen name. Yeah, I used to see if you could change the nickname to that. What is it with dog food? It's too perfect. It doesn't make I know, right? It's again, I've been feeding. That's what I've been feeding all of my fish is dog food. The Garas eat it and they love it. The Amica love it. All the shrimp love it. The clawed frogs will eat it, but they're not a big fan of it as much as I would think they would be because they feed them pellet diets in labs. What else? What other aquatic stuff do I have? The Cory cats love it. What else has grabbed it? The half-beaks don't like it. They really like live food. That seems to be the thing with them is I've been feeding them roaches and mealworms, and they've been gaining some good weight. And I really hope I get them going. I have a feeling if I'm tenacious and continue to feed them, that they'll do just fine, and I'll get some offspring out of them. But I have to keep up on that. Chain says, I had 2 roach colonies that seemed like they were in decline. I was feeding them rat food, algae meal, yeast, fruits, and veggies. They only stopped eating their oots and dying after I added plain old dog food. Something magical about it, man. The lowest quality type that you can get. I don't know if it's the fats that's in it, if it's the protein ratio or whatever. But, I mean, it's always worked for me, and I used to switch between brands. I think it was only after I moved in here that I started using the Country Squire stuff from Menards because the Menards is down the road. It was dirt cheap and all this other stuff. And then I really sort of honed it and locked it. It was like, yep, this is it. This is the brand that I use, and I use it for my rodents. I use it for my fish. I use it for isopods. I use it for roaches. I use it for all kinds of stuff. The only thing I don't use it for is my actual dog. He does like it though. He does. I do use the Country Squire for him because it's gotta be because of the fat and all this other stuff and sugar, whatever the heck they put in that low quality stuff. It's gotta be something that is very tasty and very enticing to dogs and makes them to eat it or overeat it. But he really does like it. It's probably got a different nutrient profile than his standard kibble and stuff too. So, but I use it as like a treat for rewards for if we're outside and he comes over to me or something like that. When I call him, I use it because he enjoys it like a treat. And I don't actually have to buy too many treats for him. Anthony Green, what roach would you consider the hardest species you've kept? Anthony, the hardest species I've kept and fail with, or the hardest species that I cracked and kept doing good with and doing well with? Wayne says you can even turn dog food into roaches and use those for carnivores. Dog food all the way down. Could the copper sulfate in dog food harm more sensitive aquatic invertebrates? Could it? Probably. Has it in my experience so far? No. I guess we'll have a more definitive answer when the yellow shrimp how is it, Caridina or Neocaridina, whatever they're calling them. I've seen like 3 different identifications for the standard ones. We'll see if I raise some to adulthood in my setups. And keep in mind, if anybody saw the blog post about the midges, that a lot of my setups are not, they're very new age fish keeping with algae and growth and gunk and stuff all over the place. But they're, and then some, because things have been seeded with all kinds of aquatic invertebrates, both directly from my hand and also indirectly from those midges that are flying around the tanks and laying eggs. And I like it that way because people, oh man, going back and aquarium keeping, everybody's like, oh, I checked on my tank and all my fish died. Oh, I checked on the tank and I have ick, and I checked on the tank and all of a sudden my fish are belly up and I got bloat, and I'm just here tossing shrimp and fish store fish into tanks of green water and dirt colored water, and everything's thriving and reproducing, and just like, you know, so it's not really the standard setup. So even if any copper sulfate or anything in there is of concern to the aquatic invertebrates, it's possible that it's functionally not. It may be eaten by the midge larvae and bioaccumulated or something like that. If it's even there in measurable quantities, maybe the algae are taking up and locking it away in indigestible ways. I don't know. I have no idea, but so far so good, and it's been going. A lot of those tanks have been going for a year now, not necessarily with occupants, but Anthony says doing well, and how about both? So I'm very cracked and did well with, or hardest. Corsinura texensis has been problematic for a lot of people, and it seems to be a combination of their unique moisture and ventilation needs. They're ridiculously tiny babies, which isn't so much of a problem nowadays with all the species that I've worked with that have tiny babies nowadays. But it's also possible that some of them need a diapause near adulthood. And so I have not yet gotten an F2 out of Corsinura texensis. I have had multiple generations out of Corsinura parashai. I have a colony of them. I actually almost lost them. They really did not like when things were moist over the summer, and maybe they got too crowded and they die off, and then you start to see a colony crash. But eventually I pulled them out of that. I pulled maybe like 13 individuals. They were all adults, and it's like only one female. Threw them into a ideal setup, just giving them time, and they're rebounding, which isn't that difficult to do. They reproduce very quickly. But still, so Corsinura texensis is definitely a roach that I need to rein in my husbandry on. This year marks the second year of getting Ectobius pallidus to reproduce in captivity consistently. They definitely need near subadult to be cooled to about 50 to 60 degrees for 2 months ish. And so I'm pretty happy with that I've gotten, is it an F2? Yeah, F2 out of, or up and coming on an F2. F2, F3? It's past, we're past, this is progeny of the first generation. Produced this stock now, so we are coming up on an F2. And the adults are closing with no deformities and stuff, so I'm pretty happy. But anyways, yes, Corsinura texensis definitely up there for species that I felt were difficult, that I tried and failed with. Species I tried and succeeded with, you could lump parashai and Ectobius pallidus in there, and also the Hemithyrsospora. I'm very happy to have a good continuous colony going of those, and have for a couple of years now. We're in F3, F4. Not all the small roaches breed like roaches. These guys seem to be on roughly a year-ish cycle. They don't have a pronounced diapause or anything like that, but you do eventually end up with a bunch of subadults and no older adults. So there's a vague cycle going on there. I don't really feel like breaking it because I always seem to have a couple of them. I always have them available still. So there's no reason for me to try and get like cool some down to stagger the population, but they also don't really seem to like that. They definitely are need food, need proper care constantly type of roach. Yeah, Anthony text, of course, in your text census, I have failed with many times at this point. It's like 3, 4, maybe 5. It's been at least a decade of failure with those. Satchel says there are multiple Neocaridina and Caridina species in culture, but these here beginner level varieties are color forms of Neocaridina David. Okay, so I guess I will assume. But then I looked it up and they're saying they're CF cantonensis or something now. Exotic Williams says, you going to show any bug today? Yes, I have a bug that I'm going to show in a little bit. I forgot to mention the beginning of this. This will be a more standard, shorter length stream, hour length, etc. I gotta hit my stride getting some stuff done. I have, for my mental sanity, taking the weekend off to do stuff. Basically sit around all day and play video games. On Saturday and Sunday I have some social obligations before a very intense shipping week, because this week's shipping was delayed because of basement sewage backup problems, which at this point went from being a life-ruining experience to here we go again. And fortunately, Brandon was on his way over to pick up some bugs for a program as the drain was overflowing. He got here and we were able to get to my neighbor's house and acquire the 100-foot industrial drain snake. The thing is such a pain to move around. It has like one broken wheel, but like that thing has saved me tens of thousands of dollars at this point. And so I had to lug it into the garage, get it down the stairs, get it into the back room, clear the line out all 100 feet to the street with the special gripper gloves on, get it all wound back up, haul it back up the stairs. And so that was my emergency on Monday night, and then a time-sensitive international order going out the following day. It's just there's no way I'm going to be able to do all these orders. So thus they've been pushed to this upcoming week. So, Magnificent Animals. Maybe I've seen you here before. If not, welcome. The Venoni say I got from your breeding. Congratulations. That's great to hear. Chain says, are you talking about Vittata? Yes, I'm talking about Vittata. Paleata is in a weird spot right now. Quite a few people have lost them, even though they're pretty ironclad. I probably should not have sold the last set that I did. I don't know if I have all adult females now or not. They seem to have laid some fertile ooths. If they are all females, I need to restart the colony because they're functionally extinct. With the quality of the ooths, there's a good chance that there was a male at some point and I just missed it. And thus, soon there will be plenty enough to continue the colony, but a lot of people have lost them, and I have a backup plan just in case things start to go south. But I would hate to lose those because they are so pretty, and then everybody who wants to keep a Hemithryxospora would have to jump right into Vittata, and I don't know if that's the best idea. The yellows are Neocaridina Davidii. Thank you, Satchel. Casey says, I just got some Porcella levis dairy cow. Oh, boy. So, interesting thing about the dairy cows, they probably are not Porcella levis. They're reproductively incompatible with levis, and the milkbacks, which are het dairy cows and produce some wild type individuals and whatnot. Those are probably a separate species than levis. They seem to have their origins in Japan, and currently Nate, the isopod person, is working on the ID. But if that goes through, that has some interesting implications, because for those who are following up on the isopod permits, blah, blah, blah situation, they would thusly not be allowed to move across state lines perfectly legally. Very interesting. I can't 10 bugs while playing Hogwarts Legacy. Amusing. I don't think there's a yellow form of C. cantonensis. Thank you, Satchel. Should I give them a Cuttlebone, or will they be fine without it? I don't give Cuttlebone to any of my isopods. If you're providing proper leaf litter and diet, etc., they don't need it. Does it hurt? No. If you want to, for your sanity, to give them a Cuttlebone, go right ahead. Time for the calcium rant again. Yeah, those days are behind me. I'm so done with all this crazy isopod stuff. I will go on a Skaber rant eventually, but today's not the day. I got to release some. Guys, there's a huge list of isopods I need to throw up on the site, and it's probably not going to happen until April. It will not happen until April. March is just too busy with the collecting trip and all this other stuff. But when it goes up, there'll be some fun things. There'll be some consistent strains of stuff that people haven't seen before. A lot of people. So when the lemon something Skabers that were going around everywhere, and then you get them and they throw wild types and stuff like that, it's like, oh wow, the orange calicos looks better than whatever this is supposed to be. But I might be getting close to an actual yellow calico from some older lines that I had. We will have to see. It's the power of inbreeding. But we'll see what happens. Exactly. William says the Cleveland strain male hisser I got that Expo is doing awesome. Love his colors. Speaking of that, another Roach person, I don't know if he wants his name to be mentioned, noticed that the Cleveland Zoo or something has relabeled their hisser colony, or labeled it Gramphidorina madagascariensis. And that just doesn't make any sense, because TJ hasn't updated me on any new taxonomy within the Gramphidorinae, for one. And for two, Portentosa is a valid species, and it doesn't have any junior synonyms. So if they were if there was a taxonomic thing, they would be using an older synonym. It's not even listed as a synonym of Portentosa on the cockroach species file. So I think that maybe they just pulled something out of their butt. I don't know, though. I will wait for further deliberation from the Professional Cockroach Council. You should give all your bugs chicken bones, but only for a few hours for sanitary reasons. All the chicken bones in this house that are uncooked go to the boy. And even then, if there's cooked stuff and it ends up in the chicken run or in the compost pile, he finds them anyways. I feel bad for using H. Paleata for feeders. Wait, Shane, if you have some Paleata available, I could get them from you, since we have a direct line of contact. I wouldn't mind getting a couple, or a small group of them if you have quite a few, or even just a male to cross into this line and keep it going. Again, I'm not 100% sure if I had a male in there at some point after going down. I think there's like 20 individuals. They might all be females. It's kind of against the odds. But anyways, send me an email if you have some H. Paleata available. I'll swap you or something for them. Anthony Green put in a full cuttlefish for protein. If you had a big enough colony of something, I bet my rubber duckies could eat a whole dead mouse in like a week. There's so many of them, and they're so isopods. All isopods can be so ravenous. I have more than I can handle. You can have half. Sweet. Yeah, I would love that. Shoot me a thing. Anthony says, do you want different locality fire brats? So I noticed. So I pitched my original colony of domestic. I sold off the last of them, and then the remnants I just said screw it, and I sterilized it. And then I looked at these new ones from Creighton University or whatever, and I was like, there's a surprising amount of pattern and color diversity in this new set of stuff. And I was like, did I make a mistake pitching that old stock? Like, I know that there's that Thermobia aegyptiaca or whatever that's introduced very sparingly in the U.S., but I was like, could this have been something else? Can't do anything about it now, but I would love to see pictures. It's possible that another species could be somewhere around the U.S. Rubber duckies are so cute. Yeah, I do enjoy them. I think they're one of those isopods that really deserve the hype behind them because they get large, they're long-lived, they're easy to keep, they're quite aesthetically colored. Josh Paul says, "Sell me amber dubia." Shoot me an email, Josh. And also welcome to the stream. I think this is the first time I've seen you in the stream. I don't know. I say that every time when I can't recognize somebody's avatar. Send me an email because I do have plenty of them available. It's just another one of the things that I need to put up on the site, as with many other things. My friend collected them wild caught from Wisconsin. That's kind of interesting. Wild caught from where? Because domestica don't usually occur in truly wild settings. Which is a better first pet orthopteran, Stilpicula coloniana or Romalia microptera? The Romalia are more polyphagous, so they have that going for them. You can feed them a lot more different plants. The Stilpicula will or should live longer, at least the adult males will. Actually, I need to check on my contact that I sent my Stilpicula to. She was feeding them kale, I think, and they were doing very well, but she was very meticulous. I won 50 Pycnoceles nigra in the auction. I haven't seen an adult yet, sadly. Bump your temperatures, bump your feeding schedule, decrease your enclosure size, all good ways to try and get your colony to be of age faster. Wow, he works at Cardinal Glass. They make glass. You collect them on the floor near their furnace, basically eating dissolved glass. Hey, send me some pictures. It could be not domestica. It could be something else. I'm just, if anything, I'm curious. It's interesting that there are actually buildings and places that do have them as a pest, air quotes, soon still. I've had a subadult major male of the Masola for like a month and a half now. Yeah, my Masolas aren't. I had a big boom of adults, and I haven't gotten any fresh babies yet, which is slightly concerning. But there's so many. Somebody's going to give birth. Somebody's going to do it eventually. But I need to move them out of this tank and into the basement. I'm holding off because I wanted to get an outcrossing between one of these males and then extra males that TJ sent, or extra females TJ sent for genetic diversity purposes. And so I'm just sort of like waiting for some babies to pop up down there, and then I can mix in some babies from these guys. And it's, I'm really just trying to keep as many phenotypes as possible in the group. We're all curious. Plus, even if it is domestic, I may have a different variation of genetics. Yeah, some of the ones that I had, some of them were more solid, more like evenly gray, which is pretty nifty, more like a typical silverfish look. And some of them had more like Thermobia aegyptiaca-esque stripes. And I was like, that could be bred for, and that could be pretty nifty to have. So I'm curious. The 1-to-1 ratio of males to females, and 3 females look pretty plump. Yeah, all the females that I have in there look pretty plump without having any really enticing food in the last couple of weeks. I just fed everything in the office yesterday for the first time in a month, and so they hadn't gotten any fresh fruit or anything like that. So they're probably even bigger looking now that they've been fed properly. So getting close to the hour mark. I feel like there were more exciting things. I was going to show a bug. I'll show a bug. Ew. Got some pre-killed roach guts on me. So I have a blog post coming out about these little guys. Not really that little. Very clumsy. I'm trying to find the best way to show this off. Said I have to find the best way to show. Don't go under there. There we go. Maybe just letting it duck its head into like my hand. I want to get at least one good close-up shot. Difficult to manage. Such a pain. It'll calm down eventually. And it pooped on me. That's okay. It's okay. Anyway, so what I'm trying to show here is a very large rove beetle called Platydracus maculosus, and I don't think we're gonna get a good focus on this guy. Maybe you can at least see the butt. Let's try the get this really nice and close there. Nope. Failure. This is definitely probably a good candidate for the future. What I was saying, I'll have a separate camera and I'll have a little video window so I can show things off with good lighting and stuff and small things and blah blah blah. But anyways, it's a very large. Oh, grooming. And okay, we had a second of in focus there. You guys got to see it grooming too, which is pretty nice, even if it was a bit blurry. But I had a stint right out of high school where I got really into carrion beetles and really into rove beetles. Those are the real Wild West days where I kind of felt like I hit all the roaches that I could kind of get reasonably at the time, and I started looking for other fun things to play with, and so I started raising sylphids and some staphylinids. It was also early spring. Was it spring when I got out of high school? Must have been spring when I got out of high school. I don't think it was the following spring when my first year of college. I think it was right out of high school. So, but I bred some sylphs and staphylinids that I collected because there we go. At that time of year, there's not really much else out, and it was kind of cooler, but it was warm enough where there was still stuff starting to grow and whatnot. So, so I raised like Oikioptoma. I bred Sylpha. Not Sylpha. It's Necrotes surinamensis. I don't think I ever got a good group of Microphorus. There's a couple of other things I'm probably forgetting, but there were a couple of random rove beetles, like the large hairy rove beetle. I can't remember the Latin for that. The little cerulean rove beetle. Can't remember the Latin for that either. And then these guys, the Platydracus maculosus. And so I had, and the Devil's Coach Horse. I can't remember what the Latin is for that either, but that's an established comedy. Hey, look at him groom. There we go. So very adorable. There's a similar looking species called Ontholestes, and I can't remember what the species name is. Ontholestes something. And it's kind of like this, but I feel like they're uglier. Their heads are bigger and their eyes are more bulging versus this. I feel these have a very cute look to them. And yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite staphylinids. Get my ugly face out of there. Definitely one of my favorite staphylinids. I really like the. Okay, man. Come on, while he's doing all the cute behaviors, the only Platydracus maculosus and whatever this camera records in. I'm glad this thing's calmed down a lot. Maybe here. Maybe refocus here. When this finally does focus, it's going to feel amazing. Right there. Like, every opportunity to focus, and it just refuses for some reason. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Now watch it move. And I think it pooped on me. That's okay. I can't even read the chat right now because I'm in such an awkward position, but at least you guys all get a really nice view of this play drink. Oh, and there it goes. I was going to mention that too. That behind their elytra, they conceal these very large wings. Oh, why must you be such a pain in my side? They conceal these very large wings. Come on, there we go. All right. I understand. And I know how it is. You don't want me to touch you. All right, there we go. There's your excitement for today, chat. See how long it takes for Kyle to drop it and lose it. Did anybody count how long it took? Anyways, they have shiny metallic blue hind wings, and in flight, basically, I think the idea behind it is that the color contrast from the wings being out and then when they drop on the ground somewhere kind of throws a predator off as to where they landed. Might be part of like the pipevine swallowtail mimicry complex, but I think it's more visual deceit. So I've seen them flying a couple of times. You run over to find them, they drop, and it's very difficult to see where they landed exactly. So, anyways, hopefully I'll be able to make some available. They're easy to breed, but it's a lot of work. You have to pull the eggs singly, raise them singly, all that stuff. Thank you, Anthony. I'll check out those Fire Brat pics probably tomorrow morning, maybe late tonight. So anyways, yeah, we had a couple of people. Hazy used to be obsessed with the Rove beetles. I like them. I have those the CF Delodia coriaria in pretty much all my tanks of stuff. I love those. They do such good work keeping fungus gnats. Either when they can get into an enclosure, you don't have any fungus gnat problems, but sometimes I have enclosures while you substrate that has been colonized by fungus gnats. Set it up with the way all the cloth and all the stuff that I do. It stops the row beetles from getting into the container, and then there'll be a little bloom of fungus gnats in there. It's basically the only way they can survive, because once the beetles find an enclosure, they just wipe them out, and it's great. No, I didn't actually lose it. It's down in the container over there. It went towards the light, fortunately. So there's those. There's a couple of other species that are breeding in some tanks that I used older, where I didn't sterilize my leaf litter and stuff as well. And I think one of them might actually be a springtail specialist that has some sort. I think it has like some sort of pressure fueled labium that it uses to grab springtails at like really insane speeds, but I haven't gotten those ID'd yet, so cannot confirm or deny. But that would be easy to set up in its own tank and culture. So I do actually know a person who knows or is in direct contact with a staphylinid specialist. It's just a matter of every time that I see her, we completely forget that I should be getting her some staphylinid specimens. And so there should be some definitive IDs on things. Eventually, the resource is there. It's just a matter of having the brain cells to actually go through with it. So yeah, I like them. If I can find that cerulean species again too, I'll give that a go. I did really like that, but I'm imagining it's going to be probably the same amount of work as these Platydracus. But for a shiny blue bug, I may actually do it, or I'll try and find a way. Maybe if I put them in a tank in a critter keeper faunarium with a deep moist substrate, and I just make it a cesspool of pre-killed roaches, maybe they'll breed in there, and I'll get a colony going. Actually, I don't know. We'll see. It's just those cerulean ones they're not extremely rare, but it's maybe once every couple of years I'll stumble across one or two of them here. Jane says I just got to flex real quick that I bought some of those new purple globular springtails from Travel Ice Spots for my birthday. My third globular so far. How are they doing culturing wise, Jane? I'm curious. I need to restart my Dicertoma Fusca colony after they didn't take. I got offspring, and I think they wanted higher humidity than I gave them. And unfortunately, I was unable to get a colony going. But that was also when I was screwing around with the temperature, humidity controlled sealed chamber thing. I'm not dealing with that anymore. I now have my big, as with all the other things, the faunariums are now housing the springtails, and it's going great. I have colonies of a lot of the bigger ones that I lost, and good sized colonies now, like the Tomasarus vulgaris. There's the YouTube video of those. The Orchicella cincta are building very rapidly in numbers, along with the CF isotoma delta in the same enclosure, actually, because the delta stay in the wet areas and the Orchicella cincta stay in the dry areas. And now, this doesn't really count as show bug, but this is because of our dry year last year. Hemidiosocea dropped out of being the most dominant species in the local woodlots and stuff because it's more of a moisture-loving species. And with the dryness, the Orchicellas have rebounded. And so my local park, I was able to find Orchicella villosa a week ago or something like that. And so this container should be infested with them in 5 to 7 weeks or something like that. And so I have villosa now coming available as well too. I will eventually get some more Hemidiosocea, and I will be getting more Lepidopsis paradoxus as well. It's just a matter of the weather improving a bit. So, but the big problem with the springtail cultures was the whole moisture management, and grain mites could be an issue and a bunch of other stuff. And I have found that the predatory mites that roam around, I'd already talked about this before when I had a small culture. Predatory mites are not an issue for these larger springtails, probably not for any springtails. They seem to preferentially go after mites, whatever the species is that I have. And so it's been a wonderful tool for clearing grain mites out of places without having to redo the whole enclosure and panic and stuff. And I would like to commercialize these mites at some point. I need to get an idea on them, and I need to find a reliable way of propagating them. You can try to collect the globulars from my front yard. I sent you that one time. Yeah, I could give it a go. I mean, again, I think the globulars just, they're going to end up being more complicated, unless, of course, Shane gives us details from the battlefront where he's got billions of globulars, which would be awesome. But I can tell you right now that you really can't breed Orchicella and Lepidopsis paradoxus and some of these other species on the clay setups or on charcoal. It just doesn't work. I also have in my fish setups, I have what's probably Podura aquatica breeding reliably. They just eat the decaying vegetation from the hydrocotyl that I cut, and I like them. I was trying to culture them separately, and they did well for a while, and then the water quality and stuff in the cups that I had them in started to decline. I overfed them, billion things, blah, blah, blah. And then I was down to just a couple of them, and I said, you know what, I want to save these. I can find more if I go back to Lake Erie, but I want to just try something crazy. So I threw them into the one fish tank with all the hydrocotyl, and they bred, and they've been breeding, and they're great. They're not insanely abundant, but there's enough of them that I can, pull 30 for orders and stuff here and there. So if anybody's interested in the big blue, I guess they are strictly aquatic, but not being an aquatic animal, but it's weird because they don't actually go under the water. They just stay on top of it. Those Podura are going to be up for grabs or are up for grabs. I can see Kyle spending hours collecting random springtails in Alabama. Yeah, I'll be grabbing some random stuff there. A lot of the more intimobryomorphs. Interesting. Chain says, I just got them yesterday, so I've yet to find out, but I have a few separate cultures of Archopolites and unidentified pure black species that are doing wonderful. I'm curious with these Spintheridae. Oh, those are really cool. I would be interested in getting some stock and discussing your husbandry methods, because I am all about the springtails. Let's see. before you start yelling at me about or micromanaging my favoritism here, we currently have the list of Kyle's favorite insects, with number 1 being cockroaches, obviously. Second place being Thysanura, silverfish, and fire brats and whatnot. But I am very fond of springtails too. That might have to slide in there somewhere. We might have to do some retconning. If you notice, all of these things have very roachy body types. I think that's the theme here. Is something very pleasant to me about the roachy body type. So I do really like my springtails too. CS says, wait, there are aquatic springtails? Yes, there are tons of aquatic springtails, including these Pedura. I collected them under... It was a Vallisneria, eelgrass, and a bunch of it was all kinds of debris in a big pile, just washed up, garbagey, trashy. There wasn't actually any trash, but it's the part of the beach where nobody wants to walk or swim, where there's just all this stuff that had washed up and piled up. And I went digging through there looking for a different species of springtail that's green that I found before. I don't know what the ID was. But I ended up finding these Pedura aquatica, and I was or Cia Pedura aquatica, I guess. I ended up finding these, and I collected them. And they might do fine in a cup setup. Somebody asked about where do the cups come from. They're from Gordon Food Service Store. I'm not sure if that's a chain out there or not. 32-ounce deli cups. The lids come from Superior Shipping Supplies. I have to order from 2 separate places, but I go to Gordon Food Service constantly for containers, so it doesn't matter for me. Chain says the purple globulars are also found in southern Alabama from what I see on iNet. Yeah, Dicertoma fusca, I think, ranges all across the northern hemisphere. I thought, yes, they're not insect hexapod. You're right, Satchel. We're going to have to redefine this. But Kyle's favorite hexapods: springtails, Thysanura, cockroaches. I got to find another group to slap on there. Magnificent Animals says, how are your big black beetle mimic roaches? They are so charming. They have been a reliable culture for me for probably a decade, maybe even more at this point. Yeah, I think it's been over a decade. Jeez, it's 13 years or something like that. I've had them for big black ones. That was 2013. Yeah, I guess it's been a decade for those. Regala Capuchin I've had for longer. And also, apparently, Ergala pilosa might not actually be Ergala pilosa. Stay tuned on the Roach Crossing site. April is going to see sweeping updates and additions to things. I'm going to get a bunch of updated nomenclature for isopods from Nate. I'm going to sit down and take a whole day doing that. So a lot of duckies and Cubaris are going to be swapped around and all this stuff. To all those out there who think that labeling your permits as Cubaris murina, rubber ducky, and panda king and the like will save you, it will not save you. They all have proper identifications that will be assigned to them and used. So be aware that just because you call it a Cubaris does not mean that it actually is a Cubaris. And nobody point fingers at me for the whole Granfordurina situation here. I have my reasons for the Granadiri and whatnot labeling, but we should have some firm information on that coming out of Europe within the next, at the rate that they've been going, probably the next 3 years. But eventually there should be some interesting news on the Granfordurina captive stock from Europe, at least. Hazy says, kind of off topic now, but I was thinking that if enough specimens with more spots pop up in my Levis dairy cows, you can try and breed for an all-black morph. My experience with that Dalmatian, that trait in isopods, is you cannot upbreed or downbreed from it in stock. There is a heritable lower spotted Dalmatian genotype and phenotype present in dairy cows. It has already been isolated as white, I think. They aren't actually solid white. They have very small spots. But that is probably either a variant allele on that same genetic locus, or it's another trait that's probably simple recessive or similar that is affecting the expression of the spots. But as far as the extent of the spots, it is not heritable in a sense that you can incrementally upbreed for bigger and chunkier spots. It's more you have to go fishing for mutations or have an eye for Another genotype that also affects the Dalmatian spotting that would alter it to be more prominent, in my experience. I have tried for many years to upbreed spotting on Porcellio scabers in Dalmatians with very little luck. You do see some more variation when you outcross to different varieties, different populations of scaber, like Spanish stock. You can get a little bit more variation in the spotting. I toyed around with that a bit too, without tangible results. Could you do it over time? With enough isopods and enough selection, you could probably upbreed for it via, like I said, other mutations that are going to affect it, that you would just have to, oh, look, I have a colony of dairy cows and all of a sudden there's a solid black one, or there's one that's almost solidly black. I'll just separate that and read some. Yes, but I do not think it is possible, from my experience, to say, oh, hey, here's a couple of Dalmatians that have slightly bigger or more spots. I'm going to breed those together and I'll get more bigger spots. It doesn't seem to work like that. It's not something that can be done incrementally. Magnus Sam says, April is my birthday. I'll be sure to place an order. April's going to be so busy with the auction. So keep that in mind and look forward to that too, I suppose. Also, apparently, dairy cows are likely an African species. Oh boy, is that the news from Nate? I haven't been on my Discord or asked him about it directly, but yeah, isn't that interesting? So, you do auctions? Yes, I did my first auction last year in October. The next one is going to be April 1st and 2nd. It seems to be the dates that it will be. More information about that will be posted to the Roach Crossing page very soon. I will talk about it here too. There will be about a month of advertising and publicization of that. But it's going to end up being last auction was so exhausting. I'm just gonna preface it with, it was so exhausting for me, but it was wonderful. I loved hanging out with everybody and seeing the bid wars and all the ridiculous late night antics and whatnot. Zach Williams says, Kyle, do you have a Discord server? I do not, but next live stream, I will be bringing up whether or not a Discord server will be opened for the auction, because we did have some issues with lag and whatnot in the chat. Fortunately, we were able to resolve everything amicably, but if we can use a Discord to do bidding and whatnot, that will greatly help to minimize people getting upset if they put a bid through and half the people in the chat say, oh, this person won, and then half the other people say, oh, this person won, and then I look at my thing and, oh, actually it says this other person won. So Discord would help with that, but that does, by having multiple things need to be pulled up at the same time, it does sort of decrease the accessibility versus just using the YouTube chat. So I'm going to discuss that next week. I'm not ready to go into it now. Beetle Guy says, hey, everybody. Maybe I'll order next month instead and watch the auctions. The auctions, you will find some amazing deals on some amazing bugs at the auction, but get ready for infamous folks such as Zen Monkey, Chris Snyder to be on the quick draw along with other people. Sometimes there were a couple of people who really wanted just one thing they came to the auction for. When it came up, they were ready to go. So, but it's a lot of fun. And this auction, I was saying, oh, it's not gonna be as big as the fall one. I'm really trying not to make it as huge as the fall one was, because there will be another fall one this upcoming fall in October. But as I said in a blog post, Victor does need a girlfriend. And I think that Saturday will be just a general auction. Just, okay, here's all the bugs, buy this stuff, blah, blah. Sunday will be this is the fundraising event for Victor's girlfriend, is what the Sunday auction will be specifically for. There will be a goal that I will hopefully reach, and that'll be the Sunday focus. It'll be the Victor's girlfriend special auction thing. So, but we are at 1 hour and 24 minutes. I already went a little bit over how much I want. Who is Victor? Victor is let's say hi to Victor today, everybody. We'll say hi. He was whining a little bit out there. We'll say hi to him. He's probably sitting right over here. Hi. Hey, you got people who want to meet you. You want to come here? You want to come here? Oh, no, you want to just sit there? You want to just sit there? Come here. Come say hi. Victor. Oh, that's why he smells something outside. The one time where I'm like, all right, people want to see the dog, we'll have the dog. Do you still keep Porcelia expansis white? Yes, I do. I'm going to close the door because a gust of cold air has swept into here. But you caught a glimpse of Victor, who is usually dying to come in here. There's the whining. All right, come on in. Come on in. Come say hi. Come on, come say hi. The dog. Anyways, yes, Alan, I do still keep those. Yeah, this is welcome to Victor, everybody. Open the door, he doesn't want to come in. He'll sit out there and he'll complain he wants to come in. You open the door, he doesn't actually want to come in. This is how it is. But he will be present at his live stream if he wants a girlfriend. He's very sassy. Glass enclosures behind you. Are those the Zimmed creatures enclosures or something else? The glass ones are just regular old Aquarion glass tanks. And the other ones, these are faunariums. I can't remember what brand makes it. Exoterra, maybe. Faunariums in various sizes, which I've fallen in love with. And there's no turning back. I'm going to use these for probably the rest of my roach keeping career. They better not discontinue them. I will be livid if they discontinue them or significantly alter the make of the models. If you need help creating Discord, I have created a couple of Discord servers in my day. I'm just more thinking about if it's going to be practical to have a chat here and then also Discord chat. It will definitely be better for securing bids and auctions on stuff with things being managed there. The software is much better than the YouTube chat is for having accurate posting times and whatnot. But I gotta wait. I gotta see if it is everybody who comes to the auction people who don't have Discords. Are they going to get a Discord just to do the auction? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of people have Discord nowadays. It's very approachable, but I'm just curious. So, anyways, a bit cat-like. Yeah, he probably smelled something, probably deer in the front yard or something like that, and he smelled it through. I have the window cracked for this very reason, so that he'd have some nice stimulating smells while I'm in here doing the live stream. He's a very sweet dog. We will do a Victor exclusive live stream probably in May, and I'll go through my experience working with Armenian Gompers. Breed of dog is Armenian Gomper. A wonderful, affectionate dog, and very, as you can see, he can be very stubborn. He can be very sweet. He can be very doting. He can be very diligent. There's a bunch of things, and I have my thoughts on that. But anyways, he needs a girlfriend to keep him entertained, and also for breeding. It's I would say not a common dog breed, but very rare. There's only a few thousand in Armenia still working. Pastoralism is on the decline in that part of the world, so fewer people are keeping livestock like that. And they recently, after COVID stuff, made it much more difficult to import the dogs to the United States. So there's a litter of completely unrelated puppies coming available, or that are supposed to be coming available in a couple of months. And so I need to really jump on that, because all the other ones I've contacted for, I was like, oh, I saw they updated the club page with this dog. I was like, it's so cute. I love it. Looks like me, a good partner for me. Oh, that's his cousin. Oh, that's his half brother. Oh, that's his half sister, whatever, with all the dogs. So having unrelated ones is going to be paramount to things. So anyways, that's what the auction will be for, is to raise funds for his girlfriend. No different than the day before, other than the name, and I'll probably have him here as often as possible. He'll get bored in here if he's in here for too long, though. So anyways, hour and 30 minutes longer than I anticipated to go tonight, but we had a lot to talk about. Everybody wants to see his father. He was very sassy. He wants to see me. I'm I go play with them a little bit when I'm done here, and then back into the roach mine because I have bugs to put away. There are new isopods to set up. There are containers that need to be cleaned. There are beetles that need to be put in ovipositing setups, all kinds of stuff. But anyways, thank you everybody for joining. Man, I'm going to become one of those people where I say, if you haven't liked the video already, please like. You don't have to subscribe, do whatever you want. But just if you want to like the video just for me, I like seeing the numbers over there go up. And so I appreciate that. Watching numbers go up, the little dopamine release of seeing numbers get bigger. I think I saw a couple of likes in the last minute. Thank you, everybody. So anyways, next week, same thing, same place. I'll see you all then. And until then and beyond then, as we survive the end of winter, stay warm, stay comfortable, and may your cultures ever be bountiful. Goodbye, everybody.